And ultimately, I think a lot of time was wasted, and the project was ultimately not as successful as it could have been because we weren't focused enough on the end users. I was not focused enough on the end users and not focused enough and too focused on the actual work that I was doing personally.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Lessons with Leaders. I'm joined with Craig Marvelley from Bipsync. Thanks for jumping on. If you can just give us a bit of background in terms of who you are, what your role is, and we'll get stuck into the questions.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for having me. So I'm currently employed as the SVP of Engineering at Bipsync. Bipsync's a company. We're based in the UK, but also in the States. And we build a research management system that's used by investment companies to manage the data that they sort of put together in order to inform their investment processes and decisions. So big platform, mixed technologies, web, desktop, mobile, APIs, and so on. So it's very interesting for me. Lots going on. Lots to learn about, and lots of technologies to get my hands like stuck into, which is good. Enjoy. How did I get to this point? I worked at lots of different agencies before this. So did a lot of mobile development, web development, sort of starting like early 2000s. So really saw like the explosion of APIs and mobile, mobile applications and everything. Really exciting time to be a software developer. And that brought me here. Before that, I did a degree at Cardiff University in computing and physics. Kind of fell into that by accident, didn't get onto the course that I wanted to do, and they offered me that one. I'd sort of had interest in computing from being a kid, like programming in BASIC when I was on a home computer, but never really sort of thought of it as a career. And even after finishing the degree, I still wasn't sure I wanted to do it. But I kind of just threw myself into it, realized I loved it, and abandoned my dreams of being a rock musician and went for computing instead, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah. What does a typical day look like for you as a leader as well? I guess no day's the same, but it'd be good to have a bit of a general overview and kind of what challenges you face.
Yeah, I mean that is the stock answer, right? Like no 2 days are the same. And I struggled with that massively when I first started doing this kind of role. I was used to like a very structured, sprint based, you know, set of tasks that I would work through. I got big sort of like boost out of that, like finishing a week and looking back and thinking I've done all this work and all these tasks have moved into this column and that's like me done. And that doesn't happen in this role. You spend days doing things and you look back at the end of it and you think, what did I actually what did I actually do today? And it's all about just facilitating other people's work, really, is what I've come to understand and eventually appreciate is, my job is to really make sure that other people can do theirs. So I spend a lot of time like with one-to-ones, for example. Line management, 9 people across different teams, design, software engineering, QA, product management, product delivery. So having to understand a little bit about all their roles is key. Even obviously, my history has been in software engineering. I now have to understand other disciplines and what goes into making those roles successful, so I can help other people do their jobs. So there's a lot of like people management, obviously, and then the professional development that goes along with that. Team building, and then there's obviously the sort of to the technical nature of the role as well, like strategically, like what we're trying to achieve with the product. So I spend a lot of time in meetings, like understanding the features we're building and sort of helping people to shape those from like a design perspective or a technical perspective. Hiring is a massive thing for us. We're growing, have been growing, for the last like 10 years, and particularly in the last like 3 or 4. We've doubled in size in the last 2 years. So put a lot of time into growing the team, understanding what we need in the team from like a strategic perspective. And then as the company's got bigger, working with third parties has become more important. Like we've got like development partners now. We work with a lot of outside agencies, also other technical partners like Microsoft, for example. Like talking to them, understanding what their products do, and how we can align our product and integrate our product with it. Yeah, that's it's a mix of all the above, really. And yeah, like you said, no 2 days the same.
Yeah. No, great. With you growing, I guess, so quickly as well, and coupled with the remote working world now since COVID, how do you, I guess, drive the culture within your teams and kind of get your team to collaborate effectively with each other as well? Do you have any specific challenges there?
Um, I think I think in my role in this company, I've been really lucky because like from the moment I joined and I was like the I don't know fourth or fifth employee to join the company. Um, it was always like from day one a very transparent and like open company to work at. Like we discuss everything in Slack. I think we must be one of the first people to adopt Slack. We got it in like really early on. And everything happened in Slack, and we were based in the UK and the US, so it was all like, across the Atlantic, and it suited us. And we've always had that. And so as time's gone on and the company's continued to grow, we've continued that culture. And now like two of our core company values are to solve problems together and to put people first. And I think the combination of those two things does, right from the get-go, specify that our culture must achieve that have a culture of collaboration and sort of continuous learning. But then from that, obviously, I mean, words are only so much. You have to actually put that into action. So we do have a lot of like things to back that up. So like giving our employees advice is really important. Like we do have like we do make sure that we give people opportunity to opine and to become part of what we're trying to do. Doesn't matter where they are in the hierarchy or in the actual company itself. So things like basic stuff like sprint perspectives, but then quarterly business reviews. We look across the business, figure out what we're doing and is it working. And again, give people the opportunity to chip in and suggest ways we can improve it. We have like hackathons, so from like a technical perspective, people are able to bring their own ideas in and show how they could modify the product or modify our internal processes to improve it technically. Regular employee voice surveys, weekly town hall meetings where we keep everybody up to date with what's going on across the business and any changes in our approach or ideas or whatever. That's critical to getting people's feedback and opinions, and then we support that by having a very sort of like a clear goal setting process where we start with company goals that we define across the entire firm what we're trying to achieve in a given year. We then use that to distill department objectives from that. So, like for example, if the engineering team, I'll have a set of department objectives that match what we're trying to do or support what we're trying to do across the company. And then from there, we then break those down into individual goals. So everyone then has an idea of what they need to do to support the company to go where it needs to go. And those goals will often and must include some element of professional development. So it isn't just enough to say we're trying to make the company make this much money this year. It's also how do you want to progress in your career? How do you want to get better at this, or how do you want to move into a certain role, become more senior, or change role from being a QA engineer to a software engineer, or a data analyst into a software engineer, wherever it is. So we use that really to underpin our entire sort of approach to putting the people in the company first and making sure that as the company progresses, the people who work here also do that. And I think that then encourages people to not see themselves just as a small part in the machine, but also understand the company values them for who they are. And then I think that naturally leads to a culture where everyone's happy to talk, everyone's happy to get involved and support each other.
Yeah. No, great. Yeah, I think it's really important to drive that culture and give employees visibility as well within the organization. Like you said, they're going to be a lot more engaged, opposed to being maybe a number in a large organization. They just come in, do their 9 to 5 and crack on. So no, it's it's really refreshing. So looking back over your career as well, what's one kind of mistake that really, I guess, was a major learning experience for you? And kind of how did that, I guess, approach your leadership style today?
Um,
If any.
yeah, well, yeah, I've made plenty. It's just choosing one is the thing. um, so in a previous role, I was involved in a project where we had to build a new version of a product that we already had, and the timing of that project was quite important because to the story because it came at a point where I was sort of like I'd been an engineer I think for about 6, 7 years at that point, and I sort of I was just becoming like what you would class I suppose like a senior engineer at that level of experience. I'd done enough to know my stuff, but I hadn't really got that much experience to know how dangerous it was to be like sort of like doing what I ultimately did, which was I was learning so much at the time. I really sort of hit my stride with understanding what I was doing, understanding what the opportunities were available to me to get better as an engineer and to take advantage of the tools I had at my disposal. And there was just so much I was learning about, like domain modeling and APIs and design patterns, and this all I was like soaking up all this stuff, and I was just so enthused to put it to practice. And what I ultimately did was I lost sight of what the actual aim of the project was, and it wasn't to sort of like use all these, nothing wrong with any of these techniques. They're all super valuable and all have their place. But I was too focused on utilizing them and, in my mind, creating the best possible software package that I could possibly create, and not what we were actually trying to do, which was to build the best product that we could for the users that were using it. And ultimately, I think a lot of time was wasted, and the project was ultimately not as successful as it could have been because we weren't focused enough on the end users. And I was not focused enough on the end users, and not focused enough, and too focused on the actual like work that I was doing personally. And coming out of that experience and realizing afterwards that it's great that you can use this design pattern here, and you could use domain modeling to understand this, or you could use CQRS to provide this solution. All these things are true. You can do all those things, but ultimately, if they don't improve what the user gets as a result from it, and you waste time or you waste money in the process of doing so, then it's all been for nothing. So, coming to Bipsync, with that behind me, I think what we're really good at here is understanding that and saying no to a lot of things. Like, I don't think I've ever said no so much in my life, maybe with my kids, I'm not sure, as I have here. Because we really try to make sure that everything we do has a reason, everything we do has an ROI. Not to be too like business speak about it, but like that really is it for me, is just understanding that and doing the bare minimum to make a user happy is super important. And it's not like a traditional like MVP approach and get something out the door and move on. We do try and make people happy whenever we can. We will go the extra mile to delight people. But always from a user perspective, it's user centric. It's not, from the perspective of the actual work that goes into the software engineering. That is a means to an end. It is not the reason I come to work every day. And I think understanding that has helped this product be, from my perspective, what I've contributed to the product has been a lot better for it, and it's helped the product be better for it, and helped drive the success of the company. Not just for myself, from all the people who work here, we all understand that. I think that's really key, and I wish I'd realized that a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's good learning experience as well.